The propaganda from the State Department, from the Pentagon, from the weapons manufacturers, from every single major mainstream media outlet, from Hollywood, from actors, from actresses, from the Ukrainian government continues to flow. And not only does the propaganda continue to flow, and we have some lies that have been exposed, by the way, by the Ukrainian government in attempts to influence a NATO no-fly zone, but not only has the propaganda continued to flow and been exposed in a big way, but also you have the West acting in a very strange way, in a very xenophobic way toward Russians. And, you know, they like to use this word a lot, except when it doesn't benefit them. And we're seeing a lot of news right now. Russia's RT has been banned from every major mainstream social media platform, basically. Anyone who goes against the narrative is being censored online quicker than they censored COVID disinformation. You have people who are Russian who are getting fired from their jobs if they refuse to disavow Putin. You have 10 states or more that have banned Russian vodka in grocery stores and liquor stores in their states. MasterCard has suspended operations in Russia. Alex Ovechkin, who is a Russian hockey player, was just removed from a marketing campaign because he's Russian, basically. Russian stores are being attacked. Even Russian cats are being banned from the United Nations of Cat Federations, whatever that means. There's a clip that I want to show you next about how Zelensky is a puppet. And I don't think a lot of people realize this, but we literally installed their government, which has become one of the most corrupt governments in the world, which Biden and his family directly benefit from. All right, so I want to get into this here. This is from the Daily Mail. Very interesting story. Putin is not crazy and the Russian invasion is not failing. The West's delusions about this war and its failure to understand the enemy will prevent it from saving Ukraine. And you have to remember, like we said in the last couple of segments, is you had agreements, right? There were ceasefire agreements, the Minsk agreement, and we just continued to supply eastern Ukraine and the literal extremist neo-Nazi groups, by the way, which we're going to get into next with arms. During this ceasefire agreement, we broke agreements. We surrounded Russia with NATO. We took over the Baltic states. We're aiming literal nuclear missiles at them. We have troops that just get loaded into these zones over and over and over again. And a lot of this, were red lines that Putin laid out and said, if you cross these red lines, I'm just going to have to take action. And this is something that has been warned about for a very long time, but somehow, once again, Russia is the aggressor. And eventually, the boomers will get it. And when the boomers get it, you're going to start to see boomers join the Russian liberation forces in Russia, kind of like this guy. Take a look.
Liberators of Ukraine. These guys are tough. These guys are ready, and there's plenty of them. So far, Russia has used about 10% of its military power, and we're getting ready to bring the hammer down. These guys are going to save and liberate all the good people in Ukraine, and the bad people, boom, kick their ass.
Little bit of a joke there, kind of funny. When boomers start to get it and join the Russian liberation forces in Ukraine. But here's the thing, and I put this up on Telegram recently, and I said this, and I'll put this up on screen. By the way, make sure to go follow me, t.me/realvincentjames. And we posted this article, I think this is from 2014 when the coup happened, when we installed the puppet regime in Ukraine. Leaked audio reveals embarrassing U.S. exchange on Ukraine. And I said, in 2014, a leaked audio clip revealed U.S. government officials choosing the new Ukrainian government after the U.S.-backed coup in Kiev that year. And by the way, they're trying to make you say Kyiv now because that's the Western way of saying it. In Kiev, it's pronounced Kiev, okay? In Kiev that year, which installed a puppet regime. This, coupled with the U.S. and NATO surrounding Russia and breaking the Minsk agreement by flooding arms to the Donbass, led to the war that we're seeing today. The audio recording depicts Victoria Nuland, who is Dick Cheney's foreign policy advisor. She is back in the same position today, basically. Nuland's husband is Robert Kagan, who is one of the architects of the Iraq War and was also involved in the Project for a New American Century and the attempted revamp at PNAC in 2017, a neocon think tank calling for a new Pearl Harbor so the U.S. has a reason to take down certain foreign countries, which they've done to many, by the way. So that's the story on that, and that's something that not a lot of people are talking about. Also, Zelensky is a puppet. He is a puppet. He is an actor. He starred in many very weird things. He also starred in a show where he talked about running for president and becoming president before that happened. Very weird stuff. He's basically the CIA, essentially. And here's a clip from another clip from Fox News. They had Douglas McGregor back on again, and he said some very interesting things that were correct. Take a look.
like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
Oh, I think Zelensky is a puppet, and he is putting huge numbers of his own population at unnecessary risk. And quite frankly, most of what comes out of Ukraine is debunked as lies within 24 to 48 hours. The notions of taking and retaking airfields, all of this is nonsense. It hasn't happened.
Oh, you didn't like that, did you?
A hero? When he's standing up for himself and his own people? You don't think he's a hero?
Laughed at that.
No, I do not. I don't see anything heroic about the man. And I think the most heroic thing that he can do right now is to come to terms with reality. Neutralize Ukraine. This is not a bad thing. A neutral Ukraine would be good for us as well as for Russia. It would create the buffer that, frankly, both sides want. But he's, I think, being told to hang on and try to drag this out, which is tragic for the people that have to live through this.
I'm inclined to disagree with you, Colonel, but, you know,
of course
see how this works out.
He worked for Fox News. Zelensky and the Ukrainian government essentially just lied about an imminent meltdown. Remember when we heard about this imminent meltdown of this nuclear power plant? At a nuclear power plant, the fire was at the training building next door in order to call for NATO to set up a no-fly zone and draw the West into war. And the more that we feed them arms, the more that we encourage them, the more that we continue to lie and push this propaganda. By the way, as far as disinformation, they talk about Russian disinfo a lot. There's more disinformation and misinformation coming from the West than from Russia. And we have a chokehold on the global flow of information. We control that. So what do you think is worse? So, and you know, you have this AP article, and this is what we heard about that day. An explosion that would be the end for everyone, the end for Europe, the evacuation of Europe, and so on and so forth. You have this: Ukraine claims dubious Russian attack on nuclear plant and bid to lobby for NATO no-fly zone. Once again, Ukraine lied to the world in an attempt to provoke a global war between countries with nuclear weapons. I'm not pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine. I'm pro-America and anti-Zelensky for his trying to escalate this into World War III. The State Department sent an urgent message to all U.S. embassies in Europe telling them not to retweet the below tweet from the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. Per someone, if you have retweeted it, unretweet it ASAP, said the message reviewed by CNN. So this is from the embassy. It's a war crime to attack a nuclear power plant. It's fake news. It's not real, including the ghost of Kiev, which is a bullshit lie. Remember Adam Kinzinger posting the photo of Sam Hyde calling him the ghost of Kiev? Yeah, and did that tweet get deleted? Did he get censored? Of course not, because it's the type of misinformation that matters. The misinformation that's more in quantity that helps them and helps their narrative, they're going to let that remain. But the misinformation, which is actually the truth, that goes against their narrative, they're going to censor that online, just like they did with COVID. Viral stories of the ghost of Kiev, a Ukrainian pilot who supposedly single-handedly shot down several Russian fighter jets, are of questionable veracity, but they're a key part of Ukraine's war plan, experts say, as it tries to keep morale high. So it's literal war propaganda. It's war propaganda. We can fairly easily pick apart war propaganda, saying thanks to social media, and still, most people are falling for this bullshit. This is war propaganda. This is what this New York Times tweet is saying. This is war propaganda. And this just goes on, and we allow it to happen. List of anti-Russian propaganda we've seen thus far. Ukrainian father crying as he hugged his daughter was actually pro-Russian rebel in the Donbass preparing to fight Nazi Azov battalion. 13 Ukrainian soldiers killed on Snake Island actually surrendered and are alive and well. Russian take. It just goes on and on and on. The list goes on and on and on. Netflix suspending operations in Russia as well. You also have this from the news. Latest news cycle. You should talk to your kids about Ukraine. Psychologists explain how this is the same shit we saw with COVID, same shit we saw with race and BLM. It's the same playbook. It's the default playbook from John Madden. They're just naming the plays a different thing. I showed you this in the last segment. You know, this like propaganda campaign from all the stars, all the actors and actresses. And then check this out. Let me show you something. This is from Dave Riley on Twitter. See what's happening here? So we have, this is from Getty Images News. Ukrainian servicemen, they're calling them servicemen, help evacuate people. They're heroes, right? Zoom in. They have a Nazi symbol, a neo-Nazi symbol on their vest. Right, what is that thing called? I forget what it's called. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. Black Sun, the Black Sun symbol. And you know, it's like, and the only reason I'm pointing this out is because they call Putin Hitler, and he's Hitler, and he's just like Hitler, and it's fascism. And it's like, you guys are literally supporting, encouraging, and supplying arms to neo-Nazi battalions Soldier post on Facebook, and they're like, Russians are going to bomb every abandoned school area, massacring everybody. Don't post these things. Why are they posting? And then here it is again. Shared by a Ukrainian army soldier on his Facebook. Once again, zoom in. This is the SS Volunteer Grenadier Division. It's patch. I mean, how? Here it is. Facebook allows praise of neo-Nazi Ukrainian battalion if it fights Russian invasion. And they're not even, like, real anyway. Neo, right? Neo. Battalion backed by Jewish billionaires sent to fight pro-Russian militia. Here it is. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Inflation, Pfizer documents, high gas prices, people dying from the vaccine left and right, freedom convoy, border crisis. Stone Toss Comics. There it is. Wake up, people. Wake up.